Within each and every role player lives this homeless character who wants nothing more than to quiet the heartbeat of every living thing that stands in his way. Today we celebrate this all too familiar character with...
Well now, looky here, it's the Murder Hobo Show.
Welcome to the Murder Hobo Show. Got to start over already, Uncle Jay.
I knew you were going to do that. I got to remind you. Murder Hobo RPG Show. Murder Hobo RPG Show. You got this. You got this, baby.
Welcome to the Murder Hobo RPG Show. Episode 6, Community Questions, recorded November 20th, something like that. I'm one of your hosts, Gary, a.k.a. the Murder Hobo, and I'm here with my little cuddly stick of juiciness, the lovable, the squeezable, but not hard, thank goodness, Uncle J. Raz, a.k.a. Captain Colin. What is going on, my man?
Not a whole lot there, Gary. How have you been?
Appreciate you swinging by on such short notice. I finally got the show notes together, and your marriage is out of the way, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah, man. That's what happened. I totally got married a couple weekends ago on the 9th. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm a taken man. So all you ladies out there, yeah, Uncle J. Raz is off the table. You know, a few of you guys out there too. I know there's a couple. You know, I'm looking at you, one in particular. You know, there's a couple of you. Yeah, I'm off the table now. I mean, stop sending the panties. You know who you are.
Really?
That's all I'm gonna say. Yeah, you know.
Sometimes, free panties is good. It's good stuff. I like getting those in the mail.
It's mainly from my mom, but I didn't want to say that though.
Oh. Okay, well, moving on. This is a podcast about role-playing games. We will ramble incoherently in an attempt to sound like we know what we're talking about, and hope you don't call us on our bullshit.
That's right. So in this episode, we're going to cover some news, community questions, and the creature feature. And you know what the creature feature is going to be this week, Gary?
Oh, yeah. You decided what it was going to be. What is it?
The Mind FLAYER.
Yes. The flayer of minds, the eater of brains. Come by my house, that sucker's going to starve, but...
Well, you know, I'm sure one of your kids are smart, and I'm sure your wife's smart. You might be an after-dinner mint.
This is the way I look at it. They're smarter than me, so they would have more brain power, which means sort of essentially more food. That's just me getting away. It's like pushing down pushing down your buddy and just keep running.
Right. Get out the way, Grandma.
That's right. She's the first one to go. What have you been doing the last couple of weeks besides getting married? What's on the plate?
I haven't run any of my live games in probably about like 3 weeks or so because of just schedules and timing, and especially with the marriage and everything. But I started thinking about something. The way that this game is going, it's there's not any powers or anything, and these guys are essentially on the run. The players are fugitives from the CIA. I started thinking, I was like, well, if these guys are fugitives, they're essentially criminals, aren't they? Wouldn't you say?
I would say so.
So why don't they go work for the underground? And what do you think is the best, and I started thinking about this because I've watched movies like John Wick, and how there's that like seedy underground whenever you watch the movies, the Continental Hotel, it seems like there's something, it looks like a posh hotel, but there's really something going on. It's like a network for all this assassin and, wet work sort of underground. And I started thinking like that. And what perfect book to use in this sort of scenario is Wise Guys, a savage guide to organized crime. So
wow.
I'm essentially use Wise Guys. I'm running Age Wise Guys.
Wow. That pile of junk, eh? You're converting that piece of doo-doo from Savage Worlds over to Fantasy or to Age?
Yeah, just not so much converting, but I'm just using that as a toolkit, especially the random generators and the places and locations and the contacts in it.
It's the cool part about that Wise Guys, the contacts. You can phone up, you need some muscle for a job because that's your contact. You just make a phone call and then you go get yourself some hired muscle. People show up and do their things and stuff, which is pretty neat. Wise Guys is freaking awesome, man. What a beautiful book, too. It turned out so well, man. I'm so proud of Eric Lamoureux.
Did you get the hardcover? Because I like soft covers myself because I ended up, I beat them up. I use my books constantly, so I just, the hardcovers are nice to put on the shelf. But if I'm going to get some use out of it, I'd rather have a soft cover. But a hardcover, if you got it, I'd like to, I heard it's pretty.
Oh, it is pretty. I did get the hardcover because I wanted to sit on my shelf and shine. I'm going to get like a little light and shine it on it. It'll be like my prized possession.
So it's pretty much going to be a shrine. You're just going to build a whole like little temple around it and everything, and like candles. I like it, man.
There'll be a picture of Eric and some scents going on all the time.
So I see what's going on here. You're essentially like forming your own little social club, like a little mafia, sort of organization, to pay respect to Don Lamoureux, as it were.
Yeah, if you want to call it a social club, I'm good with that. I mean,
It's just you and your dog, but
Yeah.
I mean, a club's a club.
Yeah, and I'll be stalking Lamoureux anyway, right? I'm that guy, so yeah, that's all good. Right on. So the marriage was good. I heard you fell down, hurt yourself, busted your lip. I think you got drunk.
Yeah,
and she
I
beat
got
you up.
she knocked me a good one here, but yeah, I got a couple stitches in my lip. I took a header in the parking lot. The day after, just tripped over one of those concrete parking blocks and smashed my face and my knee up. But the lip's all healed up now, and then just had to get a couple stitches. And yeah, it was a hell of a week for first week of marriage. But yeah, this week's shaping up to be quite a bit better. Like I didn't fall down the stairs or accidentally like run into a door this time. Wink, wink. So
Yep. Well, at least you have a lifetime of beatings to look forward to. It's always nice to know that you're the receiver on this end of the deal.
Yeah, I mean, it's just nice to know what you come home to, and just you just fall into that routine. You come home, say hi to the missus, you catch one in the eye, you go about your day.
Now, is there like some cuddle words she says before she pops you right in the beak?
Oh yeah, it's usually hey dumbass, come here, crack.
Wow.
So it's
wow.
It works, man.
Sounds like you got it good, buddy. You got it good. That's awesome.
I do, man.
You been screwing around with Chronica at all?
Yeah, and Chronica. What's funny too is I got into this mainly because I thought it was mainly just one of those places where you can go, where it was going to deliver weed to you. Yeah, but I apparently no, it's actually chronic. It's more like a chronicle, not chronic, like the chronic as in weed.
How disappointed were you?
On a scale of 1 to 5, about 8. But anyway, but Chronica actually turns out to be this tabletop sort of web-based campaign manager, and I started screwing around with it just in a sense that I wanted to keep track of different NPCs in this homebrew campaign because I don't really have anything to reference, and it's just kind of nice to have everything organized. I don't want to have everything. I don't want to be that guy that's like, oh, I got this all in my head. I'm like, well, then you're a lazy GM. You need to have something. You need to have notes, and you need to have some way to organize your thoughts. And that's exactly what this is. And built a whole little NPC codex, and I built, the players are on there. And what else did I do? I built a little shop and everything where they can go and spend money that they earn in the game. On if they want a new gun, if they want a new, if they want new bulletproof cloth, because I mean that stuff only lasts, three shots and kablam, it's done. So if they want some more bulletproof clothing, they got to go to the shop.
Very cool. I started messing around with it too. I paid for the yearly subscription, which I think was $30 or something like that, just to see what the features came with. Invited my friends, and it's a hard thing, I think, to get your players interested. Really isn't the word that I'm looking for. Motivated enough, I guess, captivated enough to put the information in there. But I've got a couple of players that were doing it. My buddy Charles there that's playing ICRPG with me, and Corey Jed both got on there, put in our player information. They got all their stats and stuff, all their gear and whatnot. So it's pretty cool for that. But I threw my money at it for a little bit just to sort of see if there was any kind of an interest. I need a way to, because I'm running an open table sort of campaign, one shots that sort of are small little one shots that lead into a bigger campaign kind of a story. And so what I'm sort of working towards is doing like an event manager kind of thing. So if you can't make it, you know what I mean, you can sign up and stuff like that. And then hopefully they'll keep track of a little bit of information here and there about people they meet and places they go to and back quests and stuff like that. So, and it'll help me to remember like the who's who of New Haven and stuff like that. So we'll see how it pans out. So far, I don't see the group interest in it. It's not easy to get players to, start putting stuff in there. So it is what it is.
Yeah, when you start getting the players to start doing as much work as you do, they're like, "Nah, I'm out, man. I didn't really sign up for this." Oh, I don't know if it's so much that I like give players a hard time, but yeah, it is hard to get some people sort of invested, in that sort of thing where they want to write and type something up in a document. Now, here's what I figured out, though, is if you give some sort of incentive, like, hey, if you go ahead and post some stuff, I can give you, an extra Benny. I can give you a couple extra bennies next session. I can do this. I can even throw XP if that's your jam. I don't like doing a whole lot of book work, and bookkeeping when I run a game. I don't like having to tally up all that stuff and making sure somebody's got an inventory. But if that's your jam, you can go ahead and do that, and you can sort of incentivize people to go in and say, hey, if you go ahead and write up your little story or your little point of view of what happened last time here in Chronica, I'll give you 500 XP. And somebody's like, hey, I can, that's worthy enough for me to do something like that if you're running a game where XP's a thing. I don't know.
What if I just said, if you don't put your information in there, you can't play?
There you go, too. That's another way. Yeah.
I think they just wouldn't play. They'd be like, fine, I got better things to do between 10 o'clock Sunday morning. Beat it, fatso. And I'll be like, no, I got no friends. All of a sudden, there'll be bologna sandwich DM like Eric Lamoureux.
Yeah, and what did somebody say? It's like just a bunch of mirrors of himself.
Right? So my TTS stuff is coming along quite nicely. I haven't had too many issues with anything with the campaign stuff. I got to tell you, though, the freedom of the system has led me to it has been a real learning experience. We've recently were talking about the gate spell and the power of the gate spell and stuff like that, because you can portal from where you're at to basically any location that you've been to before. And just quickly, like, what do you think about a spell like that? Do you think that's overpowered? I mean, all it really does is allow you to open a gate to go to a place that you've been. You just walk through and...
I guess I don't know there's not so much of a level. There's not a level structure per se in ICRPG. ICRPG, is there?
Nope.
Well, yeah, it's just sort of, if you're able to make that check, regardless of, where you're at, you're able to make that check.
Yep.
From what I gathered too, just my limited knowledge in ICRPG, I heard it being bandied about that this was a hard check, and that's like 3 plus the scene number, right? Mm-hmm. If you can make that,
I didn't look to see. I got to check and see now. You made me think if a gate is.
Oh, yeah. I'm pulling that out. But from what I've heard, you just kind of bandied about that. That's sort of like a hard check. And if you can make that plus, if the scene number, if the scene number's 13, and you want to make that hard check, and you got to roll that 16 on that D20, go ahead. I say do it.
What I'm thinking too. I find that no PowerPoints. No spell slots, none of that stuff, right? It really makes the casting class quite fun. What I'm doing is the magic users are starting off with 3 spells, but the priests, because the priests pray for their spells, their power really comes from their deity, that I've given the priests the entire list of spells. And they both have spell burn, so every time they cast a spell, they, D1, D2, D3, D4, when they hit D4, they make their wisdom check, and there's a possibility of spell burn and stuff like that, right? So, but yeah, and then magic users have to find, because their magic's not granted to them by a deity, so they have to find it, and that's the way that I like to roll with my magics. I give, R.A. Salvatore wrote the Clerics Quintet with this priest Catterley, and he seemed to be able to do this kind of thing where when he was casting his spells always seemed to sort of do what he wanted them to do. It's almost as if he was praying to his god, and his god made it sort of happen or not. And that was sort of the catalyst for how I wished that spells were for priests. There's got to be a benefit to not having all these cool damage spells. The priest is, to me, is more of a buffer class, more of the healer, the medic, the behind the scenes, making sure everybody's okay and gets bandaged up kind of guy. So I like that about him, and that's how I run it in ICRPG. But there's some cool stuff like the enlarge spell that you were using there. You cast that, it goes off. You went 5 times your size and did 5 times the damage.
The best part of that whole little scenario, and that was Red Sword, wasn't it?
That was Flight of the Red Sword. Yep,
Flight of the Red Sword, which I thought I got a kick out of. Just being able to be 5 times the size of my priest and that crazy old dude, just being able to swat people across the room, just have them smack, just like slam right into the spaceship, and just slide down in a streak of blood. That's satisfying to me as a player.
Yes, it is very good. So yeah, my TTS Sunday morning game's going good. I had a downright blast. There was some new blood around the table. We got Corey and Jen Judd and Emma Wakeland, who came down from Con on the Cop. They started playing with us, and I got Alex, I call him Alex Melonhead, but his last name's like Melanson or something like that. He's a guy that I know from my local gaming store, and I got Daryl, the gaming ho Cartier, Charles has got two names, Charles John, and Matt Stark. So
I was about to say, you got Mad Matt Stark going on
man.
there. Craziest player. The most. Here's the thing, man. I'm just say this really quick. Matt Stark is the ultimate wild card. He doesn't say anything. He's really quiet, and all of a sudden, next thing you know, he's stealing your boat.
Right? He's next thing you know, he's shotgun pumping you right in the face for like 40 points of damage. Oh man, that's awesome.
Next thing you know, he's throwing a grenade in your little hut, and he blows up Mama San's he blows up Mama San's village. Matt Stark, ultimate wild card. Quiet as a damn church mouse, but does the most unexpected things you ever do. I'll tell you what, if you ever get a chance to play with Matt Stark, and I'm giving a little shout out here, it's a trip. It's a treat. That's all I'm saying.
Daryl took a spell. I can't remember what it was called, but it has this weird sort of backfire effect. And he cast it, and he critically failed, and he killed this horse named Jack. So I'm going to make this come back to haunt him. We'll find out if he listens to the podcast. But Milon Guillon, the town merchant, he broke his wagon outside of town, so they stopped to help him. And while they were helping him, they were, cooking up. There was a fire going on, so the shadow lashers that were in the bushes round and abouts started, came stalking him and stuff like that. And they got into this big battle with these shadow lashers and stuff like that. And then Daryl cast a spell, killed the horse, and Milon Guillon, the merchant that was making his way to New Haven, just ran away. He's like, "You killed my horse, you son of a!" And he just ran off into town. So yeah, Daryl's gonna pay for that.
I bet you as soon as he goes into town, there's going to be a wanted poster all over, horse killing Cartier.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to do some damage. It's pretty good. And then I got these two people in town, the Walmsleys, that are pretty funny. They're like, what's his name, from the two rich people from Gilligan's Island, except they stand up on top of their little house and they sip their tea on their patio, and they just like sort of, anytime one of the peasants walk by, they spit on them and call them out. It's like, "Oh, look at the riffraff, can't even afford a nice pair of clothing." So I call them out from the roof, which is pretty sweet. But yeah. Anyways, all right, that's cool. We've done about 20 minutes of this chit chat and back and forth. Let's get over to the news section. We got an interesting news section coming up this time.
Yeah, that's the thing, Gary. I'll go back and listen to some of the earlier episodes, and sometimes I try to make myself improve each time I'm on here. And a lot of times too, I come across as a little nervous and sometimes a little stilted, and I end up stuttering a little bit. And just hear me out here, man. If you wouldn't mind. Here, I think, especially when we get into the news section where we have to be a little more serious, I'd like to not stutter or not come across as stilted as I normally do. So I'm just going to make myself a little bit comfortable here, Gary. I'm just going to go ahead and just take off my robe here and just go ahead and see if I can read the news, and just don't worry about it, okay? Just go with me here. I'm just going to go ahead and take off my robe and I'm going to do this naked.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Would it help if I went naked too?
It would I think if we're both going to do this, I think or if I'm going to do it, I think it'd just be easier if you just take your clothes off too.
All right. Well, let's take a short break here for me and you. We'll disrobe and we'll come back and do the naked news.
Sounds good.
All right. We took a short one there. Took the time to disrobe right down to the birthday suit. I'm not sure how I feel about this. This is a little awkward looking at you through Skype when you're buck naked and I'm buck naked, but I guess we're going to make the best of it. So, yeah, let's see. Maybe we can spice this up. You know how news is. Pretty boring most of the time, full on snooze time. So, yeah, maybe maybe this will become a regular thing.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. And, I just figured this will make me a little more comfortable and make me present a little bit better. And now, I think I'm a little more ready to read this news that we got going on here.
Okay, well, I don't know how well this is going to go, but, because I am a little distracted by how big your nipples are. I like the size of coasters, man, or saucers. Why are they the same hue as a pregnant lady?
Oh, well, I'd appreciate if you wouldn't shame me so early, but that's,
Sorry,
right,
man. I was wondering if maybe you've been breastfeeding or something like that. I don't know.
Well, you're kind of one to talk. What's that thing underneath your is that a boob?
Yeah, I got man boobs, man. What do you think?
Well, hold on.
Pretty perky,
Well, no,
though.
I got those too. But you got like, what is that a third nipple under, or is that, oh, no, that's gravy.
Oh,
I see what that is.
man, did have poutine for dinner.
There you go. All right.
All right, well, this is awkwardly uncomfortable, man. Let's get over to number 1 in the book, Wendigo Tales, Book 1. What do we got going on here? I'm going to bust this sucker open in a new one, Wendigo Tales Volume 1. So this came out at the same time as the Deadlands Kickstarter, which is pretty cool. And this is going to be, what is there, 4 stories in here, something like that?
Yeah, what they end up doing with Wendigo Tales is these are more like anthologies, and they end up just covering like these are like little pieces of fiction in here. They're like little stories based in these universes. You're going to get stories from authors like John Wick, not the assassin, but the designer who worked on 7th Sea and Legend of the Five Rings. Ed Stark, worked on Elder Scrolls Online and is a Dungeons and Dragons developer for a while. Clint Black, Necessary Evil story. You're getting a Last Parsec story, and you're getting a Weird Wars one. And these are just and actually, here's the thing: these are actually the volumes. So you're getting a series of Necessary Evil stories, a series of Last Parsec stories, and a series of Weird War stories. So if you want to find out a little bit more, or maybe these will help you plant little seeds in your various adventures. These are pretty cool to check out.
I'm excited for this. So one thing that really got me into, I've always been a big Forgotten Realms fan, but there's so much material written for it. I love reading it. I love reading the Dritz books on Salvatore. I actually started up again. I think I read like the first 18 books, and I'm not sure how many he's got out, maybe 25, maybe 30, something like that. So I've read well over half of the Dritz books and stuff like that, and I just started getting into audiobooks, started listening to them while I'm at work, and I've been listening to the Brandish Gilhelm ICRPG books. Oh my God, they are so good, dude. There's this one sweet, one's called The Shield of Hanar. And it's about this little kid playing by the river in the mud and stuff, and he picks up the shield, and it's just like a wooden old piece of crap, just beat up and whatnot. But he's happy as a pig and shit because he's got this little shield and stuff. And he goes off about his little day, and he's hacking at leaves with his little wooden sword and his little wooden shield and stuff like that. But there's this whole sort of backstory that happens, and I'm not going to ruin it all. But man, this kid turns into a freaking savage animal. It is top notch. These traveling dudes come at his mama, and he is not having any of it, man. He starts busting fools in the mouth with his shield, and yeah, it's cool to listen to him explain, because this kid sort of like does these weird, like, he leaps at him like he's he's a tiger, and he's got the strength of this bear, and the way that he describes him, it's almost as if this little dwarf is some kind of sort of like animalistic barbarian dwarf guy that pulls like the totem of the power from the bears, and it's really good, man. I was rather impressed. Mud and Horn is another one, The Shield of Hanar. And I can't remember what the third one is, but I listened to all of them, and they were freaking fantastic. I'm really hoping that Brandish Gilhelm, the Runehammer guy, Drunken in Dragons, really hoping that he does more of this stuff, because those stories were super engrossing, if that's the word I'm thinking. Like I was pulled right into these stories. It was fantastic. So, yeah, I'm down. I backed this at the, I think I got this at the print copy because I like to sit down and have a read every once in a while. So I'm going to do that. I'm excited for this. I like to read about this. I don't think there's enough stuff like this for Savage Worlds. Do you know what I mean?
No, I agree with you too. There's not all, well, hold on. I got to say, I'm really not comfortable. Do you have a boner right now, Gary?
Yeah, sorry. I was trying to.
Oh, my God, this is awkward. Probably. I'm gonna let's push through. Let's push through. We said we're gonna do naked news, so let's push through. Back in the day, we had Dungeon Magazine. For the folks that played Dungeons and Dragons, there were a lot of good articles for that, and you got a lot of good stories. There was some fiction in the back of that. Pyramid Magazine for GURPS, I guess, went bye-bye. But that was a long-time periodical where you got adventures and stories, and you actually got pieces of fiction in there. So, yeah, I think Savage Worlds needs a lot of that. I think we need some Wendigo's Tales, and we need some Savage Signs. I think we need something like that where we're getting monthly or quarterly sort of different takes from the community or different takes from different people on different settings and different creatures and everything like that. So, yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. I have a bunch of... I don't have the Savage Sign. I have the... what is the other one? What is the little magazine that they put out?
The Explorer.
Yeah, right. I have that. On second on the list, buddy, Deadlands, Lost Colony.
So I started off at the $100 level. And then I was like, well, I said, well, do I need to throw $100 at it? You know, I got a bunch of box sets now. In fact, I'm getting to where I don't have a whole lot of room on my shelf now. But
I think there's that podcasting professionalism you said you were going to do.
Slapping the mic, slapping the mic stand, getting excited. So I kind of waffled a little bit. So I decided I just wanted the print copies of it. However, you know what completely changed my mind about it and made me go back to the $100 level?
Uh-oh.
They released those the archetype cards.
No.
Did you see those?
I have 15 frickin' different Kickstarters going on right now, so I'm scrolling through it. Let's see. Tell me all about it.
Okay, so I know a lot of people are probably not going to tap dance about this, but I'm telling you, man, as soon as I get a card for something, and these apparently are going to be the same size as the oversized deck that you got in the Suede Essentials box. You get a set of these cards. It's kind of like how you were talking about in one of the previous episodes where you said, you know, for those the cards with the pictures of the character on there, and it's got the stats and everything like that too. That's kind of like what they're doing here. Is you get these archetype cards. They put a preview of the Nuke Shaman on DRIVETHRU RPG, and it's going to be roughly about a little bit bigger, the size of the oversized cards. And you can use those as NPCs. You can use those as, hey man, you use them as pre-gens. Like, here you go. Here's some archetype cards for you. But yeah, the more cards I think you start incorporating into something, I think the better. And I think I would like to see sort of a trend to start seeing a lot more like NPC cards and something to that effect in Savage Worlds. I mean, I know FFG does that. You know, in Fantasy Flight, you can go get like a deck of cards that's going to have adversaries, and you know, I have a couple up there for Star Wars. But I would like to see something in that vein for Savage Worlds, and that's why I decided I was going to go ahead and back the full money on this.
I see the archetype cards. It looks like there's only 6 of them. There's more than 6 archetypes, so hopefully they pan that set out in the future, kind of a thing. That would be kind of nice.
Oh, because it was a stretch goal, they unlocked more, so we're going to get more of those.
Oh, all right. So, well, that's kind of cool. What else we got going on here? There's this new thing that's been sort of going around. Did you see this is kind of a little awkward, dude, but do you shave?
Well, I just started it recently. You know, I got married and everything like that, and I'm trying to, I don't want, kind of spicing up everything. And so I've always heard that a small bush makes the tree look bigger. Yeah, it's just basic landscaping. Honestly,
it just kind of looks like you're dragging a couple walnuts in a wet sock there, dude.
Yeah, that's middle age, man. And, I'm gonna have to get a pulley or something, just for my sack, just to be able to, get those where they need to be.
They got some underwear for that, I think. That'll cinch things up. Yeah.
Send me the link after the show.
Naked news thing is probably a bad idea, right? Let's. Are you picking pubic hairs off your microphone?
I got something going on here. It's just sort of floating around. I mean, I don't have any clothes on. It's sort of, I shed. Sorry, dude. Wow. Proceed. I'm listening.
I think you got some loose hairs or something like that. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah. It was a little cheese. But no, you were saying, the monk though, they're because what is it? They're dependent on what is it? You got single. What do they call it? You got mad and sad. It's single ability dependencies and multiple ability dependencies. And where the monk, they've kind of eliminated that in 5e, where they're just all around like badasses. They used to get crippled because I know in Pathfinder that if the monk didn't have enough wisdom, they couldn't use their chi, and if they didn't have enough strength, they weren't going to do a whole lot of melee damage, and if they didn't have a whole lot of dex, then they weren't going to hit as often as they should. So you had to, it was kind of like a nightmare to even try to min-max a monk because it was so wonky. So yeah, I know what you're saying though about that.
Yeah, they get some weird like dodge skill and stuff like that too. So we're in this hallway. It's nothing but a hallway. There's the party members, there's a door, and there's a set of stairs that go sort of back up and around. And somebody opens the door to go into the room, but the door was trapped with like a fire rune. And so this fireball goes off. And the monk's like, yeah, I'm going to use one of my spells or one of my skill abilities to hide, like to dodge the fireball. I'm like, let me see that. Like, you know what I mean? It was just a constant, like, let me see your character. Because anyways, basically, for the sake of the story, I was like, sorry, buddy. I don't give a shit what your stupid ass skill says. There's no way that you're going to dodge like an AoE spell that blows up in a hallway where you have nowhere to go. Yeah, he was adamant about it. And I'm like, sometimes this is just what I hate about things like that. But what do you do, man? Besides punch your brother in the face, it's about all you can do.
You probably next time, I think you can just, maybe if you just decided to sit down with the guy and decide to take your clothes off and just talk to him like man to man, like we're doing right now, maybe it'll settle some differences. Because you can't really focus, you can't really stay mad at somebody when you're sitting there staring at. I kind of don't know what I'm looking at here, but
I feel like you're a little bit distracted. I've been trying to get this rager to go down for a few minutes here.
Yeah, I really am. I'm like, whoa, jeez.
The last thing on the list was this Abzu's bounty, but you got to grab those papers off your desk over there.
Yeah, hold on. Let me do this really quick, man. I ended up dropping those. Let me do this really quick.
Holy crap, dude. Do you have problems wiping? You just look like there was a warm peanut butter sandwich just got spread open. Holy Jesus.
If I would have known that was to happen, let's say I would have made myself a little more presentable. So I apologize about that. And jeez, God, this has turned out.
We might have to put a pin in this naked news. I'm just saying, man. I didn't realize.
Let me get my robe, dude. This has turned out horrible, and I'm still kind of nervous, and I think I'm still going to stutter or whatever. But yeah, I saw a lot more of you than I thought I was going to.
And I didn't realize your dingus was so massive. I thought it was like when you had one of your cats stuck in your crotch and his little paw was hanging out there.
Jesus Christ, this is this is so uncomfortable.
I hate this segment so much. So what's last on the list? Did you read this thing? Did you check out this? This makes me. This is coming out pretty soon too, man. Nerd Talk, sweet. Expanse, December 13th. The next season is coming, and I found this thing on the Green Ronin Publishing website. This Abzu's Bounty. This thing looks frickin' top notch, dude. Abzu's Bounty, the first campaign for the Expanse RPG, is almost ready to go. The layout's complete, and we're waiting for a few final pieces from the artist. You gonna get this thing?
Oh yeah. In fact, I didn't back the Kickstarter because this is before I started getting into number one, the Expanse, and number two, the age system. So I didn't back it when it came out. However, though, I did over close to where I live. There's a store called Books A Million, and I ended up getting a bunch of coupons because I signed up for their loyalty program where you pay like $20 a year and you get you get several coupons off. And so I ended up like taking this coupon where you got like, what was it, 25% off like $100 if you spit there. And so I essentially got like the Expanse books for half off. So
wow,
I got
that's really nice.
So I got the Expanse, because I think they sell it over there at Books A Million for cover price. But I got the Expanse book, and I got the. I'm a sucker for the GM's kit, even though I never use a screen. I never use. In fact, I need to do what some GMs do and just fold it out flat in front of me instead of like using it as as sort of an obfuscation tool. I'm trying to say obfuscation. There you go. There you go. You fix that in editing. But yeah, I need to use. But I'm a sucker for GM kits. I just like them, and especially the Green and Winona ones because they end up coming out with like these little handouts, these cards. Especially with Age 2, they have like these stunts. And so they have these reference cards where you can look at this and they show your actions. So I love handing them out. And they're kind of like laminated. They're like on thicker like cardstock almost. They're very well done, and their GM screens are great. So I'm really a big fan of that. So I ended up snatching that stuff up. So as soon as this comes out, and this was when people have been waiting for this because this is who back down on the Kickstarter, they were absolutely, this is one of the last things that they were going to get. But it looks like it's getting ready to come out for the general public. And man,
looks good. Dude.
I'm excited.
Yeah, this is like some kind of like, what is this? Abzu's Bounty is a 6-part system-spanning campaign filled with action and adventure. Looks like it's a direct tie-in to the adventure called To Sleep To Sleep Perchance to Dream in the core rulebook.
Yep.
Man, you got to run us through some Expanse in the age system. I'm really excited to play. I want to do some stunts, man.
Do you? I tell you what, I will. What we talked about here is what I will go ahead and do is I will throw together what we talked about before, Legions of Liberty. And I tell you what, if down the road, I will go ahead and throw us because there's already Expanse set up in or Expanse kind of community rule set for Fantasy Grounds that I already have and already fooled around with it.
Wow, nice. Yeah, so, that's kind of cool. I'm kind of excited about that. Maybe we can play naked as well. What do you think?
I'm as long as I don't get too distracted because you'll be like, oh, looky here. And then like, oh, I stunted. And I'm like, you didn't stunt. That's just a boner.
So what if I put a dice in my butthole and farted it onto the table? Would you count that as a roll?
I would count that as every roll that you made. That's a negative by 100.
What? You don't want to
So
see
if you roll
you want to see my dingus hole?
right, if you farted a die onto the table, yeah, that would be whatever it landed. And if it landed on a 6, it would normally ace because for whatever reason we're going to say that exploding dice. But yeah, it would be 100 times 100 modifier. So yeah, essentially, if you did that, like the devil would come out and eat your character.
Maybe the devil would spray on my camera and it would just look like that monkey that threw poop at grandma's face at the zoo. Did you see that on YouTube's?
I got to now. I didn't see that, but
It went right through the bars and hit grandma right in the mouth. She literally wore this monkey's duke right in her face, man.
Oh, that's awesome. And right in her mouth too.
Made me want to be a monkey. Lastly on the list, Creature Feature Quarterly number 6 is coming out, I think. Jeremy Hart has been producing these things, and I started looking at them for new. Here's one of my biggest problems with Dungeons and Dragons. Everybody owns the Monster Manual. If you're a player, you should not own the effing Monster Manual. Do you know what I'm saying?
Oh no!
Playing this game one time, and I'm describing this creature that comes out, and one of my players leans over to this other player, and he says to him, he's like, "Oh, this is such and such. You got to use fire." And I'm like, "God dang it! What the frickin' frack, dude?" So, so one of the nice things about ICRPG is the monsters and stuff like that have new skills and abilities. They do some cool stuff, and nobody really knows what they are. You don't know what a Shadow Lasher does. You know what I mean? So that's kind of sweet. So I was looking for a way to find ideas for basically new monsters for my ICRPG campaign that people that I can put up against people, and even if they're written for 5e, I can easily convert them over to ICRPG. So I backed this guy's stuff, and man, it's actually pretty sweet. He's got in this one here in volume 4. I think for his next one will be coming up here pretty soon, but you can just check him out on the Kickstarters under Jeremy Hart. And in the last ones, you could get them all for $12. They don't fund quite a bit. He doesn't really get a lot of backers, but the stuff is actually pretty quality. It's actually kind of nice. You get monster tokens, paper minis that he takes the time to assemble. You can just print and cut them out. And this one was 13 different monsters. You just skim open. You can print it off yourself. That's kind of the deal. Is he does the art and the layout and stats them out and stuff like that, and then you just buy them. And then just print and play. You print your own little zine, so it's actually pretty sweet. I was pretty impressed, man. Yeah, he's created 6 now, I think, and it looks like he's from Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam. Mm-hmm. Maybe Ilos is his last name. I don't know. Very cool stuff, man. The Creature Feature Quarterly. Number 5 or number 6 is coming out next, so look for that on Kickstarter. When it comes up, I'll let you guys know, because man, you know what? For the $12 or $13 that you're dropping on this, you get basically all of the zines that he had. So yeah, you're gonna get 30, 40 monsters for a couple bucks. Talk about a great idea, man. It's pretty cool. Anyways, let's wrap up the this news segment, and because I really need to not be looking at you naked anymore.
Yeah, I think I'm done too. I've just been distracted this whole time. I've kind of questioned my masculinity now. I also kind of question my sanity, and I'm just starting to have a whole lot of questions after this segment. I thought I was going to get some answers, but I'm afraid I just left me having more questions, dude.
I'm glad that that our buddy that we were talking about earlier isn't on our he isn't part of our little committee here, because could you imagine the two of us naked? He's a chubby chasing dude too, right? We're his we're Playboy centerfolds for that guy.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And, yeah, we might as well be Chippendale dancers for him, man.
Oh Jesus! All right, let's get over to the creature feature, man. Put your clothes back on, Jesus.
Yeah. Oh, it's done.
Creature feature. I got some straight up Diet Mountain Dew, man. It's top notch.
So you can get Diet Squirt up where you guys are, and so I like Squirt's my favorite soda.
I got
that's
some.
What this is essentially.
I got some Diet Squirt for you right here, but you got to work for it.
I bet you it ain't Diet either.
Yeah,
I'd be worried if it was Ruby Red too.
Kind of in the mood after that naked news segment we just did.
Oh,
I gotta say.
Oh,
all right. Well, yeah. That said, it is time for the old creature feature round 3. Ding ding. Mind Flayer. Thanks for the suggestion on this one. I'm pretty excited to get into this brain control and freakomatic, man. This was a lot of fun to do my little bit of research on there. What about you?
Yeah, see, I've been a big fan of the Mind Flayer, or, if you're an intellectual, the Illithid, or Illithid. It's the Illithid is how I pronounce it. I've been a fan of these guys for some time, and I think it started, it goes back to when I started back into RPGing about 10 years ago, and I got into D20 Modern, just thumbing through the books and thumbing through like the Urban Arcana setting and everything, and these guys kind of caught my eye. And also, too, what was it, a couple years ago, the second season of Stranger Things, they started mentioning the infamous Mind Flayer, but, it wasn't a true Mind Flayer. It was sort of the upside-down abomination. It wasn't the purple-holed, penile-looking brain buster that we all know and love. Where D20 Modern mentions the Illithid in the Urban Arcana section, but it's really just like a squid-faced executive with some psionics. They kind of did that where it was sort of, they took bugbears and orcs and everything, and they threw suits on them. So that's kind of what they did. But since I knew that you were going to take care of D&D, I went out in the world to go search for, other instances of the Mind Flayer. Now, it's the Mind Flayer is sort of, a world, Wizards of the Coast exclusive. It's their big, but there's ways around that sort of thing, as we know, Gary.
Yep.
I reached out, I started reaching out. I reached out to some folks out there on Savage World Discord. And I discovered the Thulid. This is actually converted over by our Savage World's resident genius, Richard Wilcock. Actually he has this on his site. And so, the Thulid is a race of purple-skinned humanoids with squid-like heads. They're powerful psionics, and they have a penchant for eating brains. So think squid zombie psychic, which I believe is the same race my ex-mother-in-law is.
Man, she's going to be mad when she listens to this show.
Well, she's a fan. What can I tell you? Stop listening,
right?
Karen.
This is what we usually listen to after we have sexy time.
Exactly. Now, right off the gate, the powers that you get as the powers that Sir Richard deemed to give the Thulid. It's a veteran character, so it's got banish, so it can plane shift stuff. So it'll just like whomp. Zap you right out of existence. It can levitate, so it's got the flight power. It's already going to, it's going to go ahead and tap into your mind. And it's got the two best powers, or the two most underrated powers, I believe, in Savage Worlds. You got Puppet, which we all know if you fail that spirit roll, you're done. And then Stun. And then some of the other special abilities you get, that Richard deemed that these guys would have. They get an armor +1 because they got their spongy, their squishy flesh. It's sort of like squid-like, and so that gives them a little bit of a toughness there. And their tentacles do strength plus D6 damage, and they can actually reach 1 inch on the map there, and they can also make a grab attack. They got dark vision. They can grab you. They can pin you when they hit your raise. And, once it's essentially, this is before it was bound and entangled. This is before all that happened. But you can essentially turn that and say that the grab, will entangle your opponent, and on a raise, you can, you'll be bound, and then you have to require, strength or an athletics roll to escape. And also, too, this is a very underrated edge. If you think about it, if you're playing in a deep fantasy game, or even in a sci-fi game where these guys pop out, arcane resistance, dude. Arcane resistance. Now it's a little bit different from Deluxe here, and this is how this was statted. But arcane resistance in Adventure Edition, just a standard novice version, you get a +2 to resist opposed magic, and you get to absorb like 2 points of damage. In the improved version, it's 4. So that's a very underrated edge if you think about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sounds like it. You did a good job of putting that together, man. They really captured the flavor of the frickin' Illithid, eh? That's really nice.
But I mean, you think about it, like for Savage Worlds, back to this beautiful creation of his. I mean, it's a it's a pretty formidable creature, man. It's persuasion, intimidation, and its psionic skills are hovering around D10 and D12, and that's enough to shake and bake your little bitch ass fighter who's got a D4 in smarts. That eggplant looking son of a bitch is gonna he's gonna puppet you. And he's going to have you flying off a damn cliff somewhere before you can even draw that, short sword that you love so much, Lamoureux. But even if that doesn't work, man, old Squid Face over here can pull Stun, Trapped as a Mind Blast cone. And he pulls that out of his wazoo, and that's like nothing to him. And I tell you what, stun in Adventure Edition is nasty. If you haven't, have you fooled around? Oh, actually, you experienced stun firsthand. I forgot that. Oh yeah, Matt Stark could not wait to pull that out on you. In fact, I kind of helped him, figure out. Well, if I remember correctly, we talked about stun. I was like, stun is nasty, and you know how it goes.
Oh, he wrecked me with that. He wrecked me.
You fall prone, you stay distracted. You don't count towards a gang up bonus if you're in melee. And also, the worst part about it is, you're subject to the drop. Any attack on you is subject to the drop. And that's +4 attack, +4 damage. Think about that, going around messing with this purple-headed bastard. You think about that before you go stabbing with your short sword Lamaroo.
Your little pig sticker.
Now, since that's pretty much the Savage Worlds version of the Mind Flayer, and since I'm also digging the age system, I went ahead and I took a look at our buddies, what our buddies over at Green Ronin are doing about it. And like I said, we can't really have something called the Mind Flayer because it is sort of a proprietary creature. However, to get around that, Fantasy Age offers up the Thin Man. So these creepy ass creatures, they appear to be unnaturally tall. And they're sort of like these thin-looking humanoids, and they got like this featureless face, and you can actually see in the bestiary on page 106 in the Fantasy Age bestiary, they sort of dress in like noble sort of attire, like they dress like a merchant or somebody of a higher class would dress. They sport these writhing tentacles, not unlike a certain god we know, certain elder god that we know about. Very little about them is known in lore, but rumor has it that they want to either eliminate or dominate all intelligent life. So you don't have anything to fear there, Gary. You're kind of safe from this guy.
Right. Excellent.
Oh, their overall goal is to make people feel powerless, alone, and most important, helpless. So sort of like the DMV, which is the Department of Motor Vehicles over here in the States.
I did not see that coming. Right. This is the same up here in Canada, man.
Right, there you go. You want to know how they do it? Well, that's why you're listening, I would imagine. We're looking at these guys have a high constitution and high willpower, so they're going to have some defense in that. And then in regards to that, the constitution is going to give them a higher health, and the willpower is what they're going to use to generate their special abilities. Number one, they're anti-magical, so their very existence twists and repels magic. So it's got a +2 to resist spells. Now, here's the big thing about these sons of bitches here: the aura of corruption. When these guys move into an area, its unnatural mind sort of poisons the thoughts in these areas. The creatures who spend like an extended amount of time within a half mile of the Thin Man's lair, they have to make a target number 12 willpower test every morning. All creatures who fail become paranoid. They suffer from nightmares, and they experience like some other physical maladies, like such as rash, bloody nose, or hair loss. And then you got infectious mind, and so that's exactly how this guy will like plant his like seeds of darkness out there, and your victim has to make a target number 24 to save. Creature becomes affected by the Thin Man's mind and acts as the Thin Man's best interest. Oh. So
I'm wondering if there's an aura of corruption around here somewhere, because I got like a rash and hair loss too.
Uh-oh. How long you been married?
I thought you were going to ask me about my rash.
Okay.
You didn't see that in the naked news section?
I didn't see that side of you. Yeah, these guys, when they take a move action, it's got something called sidestep, and it can essentially fade from existence and teleport anywhere away. So these guys can essentially whomp and whomp. That's my teleport noise. Whomp is teleporting. Whomp is appearing.
Yeah.
If you didn't know that. And these guys, they get a tentacle grab stunt when they roll doubles like on a fighting attack. The Thin Man wins an opposed strength test. The target cannot move and suffers a -2 penalty to ability test and defense. While he's got that sumbitch trap, and a grab target can attempt to break free as a minor action. And then they got these unnatural arms and legs that can behave like normal limbs and everything, and actually gives them a lot more reach, and so they can attack targets like a couple squares away. Yeah, maybe it's called the Thin Man in Fantasy Age bestiary, but we all know who we really are, Mind Flayer, And so Gary, the resident D&D sage of the Murder Hobo RPG show, you did your research as well. And so what did you find out about our pal here, the OG Mind Flayer?
Okay, we're going to hop in the Wayback Machine. Let's break out my 1979 Advanced Dungeons & Dragons Edition print monster manual and see what it says. So, right out of the gate, we got some pretty interesting stuff. These things are rare in frequency. They appear in numbers of 1 to 4. You imagine 4 of these things crawling out of the bush. Well, they don't crawl. There's really no bushes in the Underdark, but you imagine them popping up from behind a rock, and you got some. All of a sudden, you got some squishy tentacles, like some calamari on your forehead. And this is actually pretty funny. I always get a kick out of this too. I should actually, at one point, we should roll up some treasure, because the treasure type for this thing is BSTX. Probably don't know this because you're not an old D&D guy, but when you're looking up treasure type, you look up treasure type B, treasure type S, treasure type T, treasure type X, and then you make a bunch of rolls and you get a pile of loot from these things, right? So that's actually pretty funny. I forgot about that stuff, man. I got to look that up. No, never mind. I did in 5th edition, and I don't think they have treasure types anymore. So these things get 4 attacks for a whopping 2 damage each. Doesn't really seem like much, right? But they do get special attack Mind Blast. Their intelligence level Genius. Mind Flowers. Oh man, Mind Flayers are found only in subterranean places, as they detest sunlight. This is 1st edition. Advanced. It's not even 1st edition. It's just advanced. This is when this came out. So way back in the day, these things did not go out in the sunlight. But apparently in later editions, you could actually be an illithid and start playing these stupid ass things. They are greatly evil and consider the bulk of humanity and its kin as cattle to feed upon, which is pretty cool, man. That's frickin' stiff. So a Mind Flayer will attack you with its tentacles. If it succeeds in 1 to 4 rounds, it's sucking out your tiny pea brain and having an afternoon snack. And sorry, man, but you're instantly dead. My favorite kind of deaths, instant death. Unless it decides to blast you with its psionic ability first, which is just basically you get stunned, this thing rolls up, wraps its slimy tentacles around your face, and starts, trying to penetrate your skull holes. Now, perchance you get the upper hand on this thing. This squid-faced ass is running like an old lady to the mall on Black Friday, dude. And his treasure be damned. The only thing he cares about saving is his own ass. They speak their own arcane language and have several other weird tongues like those of its subterranean brethren, but also have ESP. So they basically doesn't really talk at all, and they don't say anything. Mostly what they do is they just they use their telepathy. Why can't I say that word? Telepathy.
Just like I couldn't say that one word earlier. I'm trying to think of what that one word is.
Man,
I forget.
Wow. Generally, these squid head turds are intestinal pink in color, and they have like this pinky sort of purple-black tentacles that they ram in your head holes to chew your skull pudding. Its eyes are milky white with no pupil to speak of, but its hands sport 3 long reddish fingers that are attached to like mauve-colored hands. Friggin' things look like a roll of lifesavers, I'm telling you, man. Pink, red, they got all sorts of weird colored purple things going on. When I was looking up the artwork for this thing, the thing does not have an opposable thumb. It literally has like 3 fingers, and that's it. So I don't know how this guy's rubbing one out. Maybe that's why they're so evil and angry, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's no release. They just got a bunch of tentacles, and they can't really do anything with them.
And you think they'd be like a little happier. So we're going to shoot ahead, I think, about 10 years to 1989, Monster Manual Compendium 2nd edition. Changes this brain-eating squid man to consist of. Let's see here. So the diet is now a listing, which of course is brains. The damage attack is listed as special. And we have an 8,000 XP listing. Oddly, no XP is listed in the advanced version, like, the previous one, which is kind of weird. So this melon chewing freak gets a little more love in the explanation section of 2nd edition. Instead of just like 2 paragraphs, now we have 5. So they sort of did a bit of an expansion on this thing. A little bit about the lore and stuff, which is pretty cool. Something funny to note is that it says this is the most feared and most evil of subterranean creatures. And in its description, it has 3 fingers and a thumb. But the artist clearly didn't draw any thumbs in this picture, even though it says that it has them. So it's kind of a weird-looking dude. Their fashion sense is put into print in this edition via flowing robes with symbols of death and despair. Cone of Mental Blast gets fleshed out with a little bit more precise details on size and damage with a save versus wands, or you take D10 plus 2 damage. That's a little bit better than doing 2 points for getting like a sticky sucker on your face hole. And as a side note, it says that these fellas like to take slaves. So when things get tough, they have food to eat. Your party member sort of disappears, gets sucked into the abyss, the darkness, and you know that somewhere they're scrubbing this guy's, his business back there. Yeah, another interesting thing is they live in large communities of 2 to 2,000. That's sort of now being written about. And every one of these mind flayers has about 2 slaves per flayer. So that's quite a large settlement. And here is the first appearance of Elder Brain, a pool of briny fluid that contains the brains of the community's dead. That's actually pretty sweet. So these elder brains have a telepathic radius of 2 to 5 miles, and no illithid can be surprised except by non-thinking creatures. I could sneak in here, I could steal their stuff, and I could vamoose before they even know what happened. They wouldn't even know that I was here. Right?
Nope.
That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, in fact, that's why I chose the Mind Flayer, because you are their natural enemy.
Wow. The telepathic range of the Elder Brain represents the size of the territory Mind Flayers will defend, so roughly 2 to 5 miles. It says they have no family structure and social activities are limited to eating. So these guys pretty much just hang out and eat with each other, and that's about it. Communicating with the Elder Brain and debating on how to rule the Underdark are pretty much the only thing that these guys do together. That's actually very cool. Debating on how to rule the Underdark. So it says these guys live to be about 125 years. That's quite a while, but I'm cool with that. And they're warm-blooded amphibians, so they spend the first 10 years as tadpoles swimming around the big brain pool until they either die, which it says most do, which is kind of a weird thing to put in there, or become big bad melon chewers. Poor bastards are sexless creatures. I would just end my existence right now. Why would you want to live for a long time and not have humpy times? Right?
Yeah, they're hermaphroditic, so they don't need to reproduce. They can reproduce with themselves. I get told to go reproduce by myself every time I go to the DMV. So,
oh, I thought you were going to say every time you go to bed at night.
Well, I get told that too.
What happens in my house? Wait a second. These poor bastards are sexless creatures, but can produce offspring twice in a lifetime. That's weird. It says that every 20 years or so. So somebody with some math skills needs to sort of check into this, because if they live 125 years, that's 6 times in a lifetime. But yeah, twice in a lifetime, these things can, I guess they squirt out some like little squids into the brain pool.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know how that goes down, but I'm just imagining a mind flayer whipping his black robe apart, pulling out his 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th tentacle down there, and squirting the little baby tadpoles into the big melon head there.
Yep. Here goes baby Louie. How's it going?
He's going to last about 10 years and then die. So here's a question for you. Now, would you rather be a mind flayer, or would you rather be a big brain and have 200 of these guys coming out once every 20 years and dropping sauce on you?
Probably the latter. I'd rather just lay in a pool anyway.
The last thing it says is that Mind Flayer Ichor is used in ESP potions. And that's about it for 2nd edition.
Now, weren't you telling me though that this is when your D&D break started and you start working and raising kids and everything like that too? So this is really kind of
yep. Unfortunately, it is, man. 3rd edition was sort of where I pulled the pin. I started having kids. I started working full time, and I spent the next 15 years or so rearing my own little illithids, my own little mind flayers.
Now, didn't you go back though and take a look at 3rd edition stuff though, for some more research?
I sure did. To my surprise, 3rd edition artwork is banging. These guys look friggin' awesome. Dressed in black robes with skulls and bones, these guys are starting to look like the evil bastards we're hearing about. We got some new goodies here. Mind Blast is fleshed out right inside the monster manual. DC 17 will save or get stunned for 3d4 rounds and dragged off like dinner. Psionics and Improved Grab are listed as skills as well as Extract, which states that a Mind Flayer with all 4 tentacles attached makes a Mind Flayer with all 4 tentacles. Oh, what? Oh, that's why I can't read it. A Mind Flayer with all 4 testicles attached and makes a successful grapple check gets to rip your memory box out of your melon, and you're instantly done. Bye-bye. Freaking awesome. I love that, man. We also have the first mentions of Mind Flayer sorcerers, making these fellas much more deadly, which is cool. So these guys come with a list of spells as well. Mind Flayer Society now touches on Mind Flayers constantly vying for power, and they'll form groups known as Inquisitions, which is essentially a party of these guys, like an adventuring party that go off. The first appearance of Mind Flayers as characters with a shitty-looking list of skills and abilities. This could be prettier, but whatever. The cool factor 10, man. It's all of a sudden you can be like a Mind Flayer character. That's kind of cool. Lastly, in this book, you have tactics round by round for a description of how these guys like to whale their enemies into submission. That goes something like this. Detect thoughts to scout foes and determine threat. Round 1, we open with a Mind Blast. Round 2, if most of the party is stunned, we charm monster on the remaining foe. Maintain distance and Mind Blast again. Round 3, if 2 or less are stunned, he's going to order the charmed foes to protect you, so that's cool. All of a sudden, your party member's like, hey, this is my buddy, Mr. Mind Flayer. They turn on you. He's going to grapple one of the stunned foes with some tentacles. If your party is mostly uncharmed, this fricker's, he's running for it, man. He's out. Peace out. Sayonara, man. I'm going to go squirt one out in the elder brain somewhere. Right. Round 4, if you're looking good, he's going to eat some brains. And if things went south, he plane shifts and pounds sand, man. Super awesome. 3.5, super awesome. I was pretty freaking happy about that.
Now, you can see the big that's kind of like, as far as my knowledge, this is where I start picking up a little D&D knowledge here is right around 3.5. Even though I wasn't actively playing, just, I came back and I started reading D20 Modern, and that was all based off of 3.5. But yeah, and then you start seeing things like this too, and you can start seeing where they start laying out tactics on what you want to do, and you can start really feeling like kind of like the war gamey kind of like sense, that you get here, where they starts laying out, these are specific tactics that you want to do to really enhance some spectacular combat, and you can really tell that's really kind of where it was focused on at that time.
Yeah, I like that. I think that's cool that they put in these things, sort of give you a little bit of, play-by-play as to what these things would do. All right, June 2008, first printing of 4th edition, The Turd Years.
That's what they were subtitled, The Turd Years, 4th edition.
Mind Flayers in 4th edition touch the weenus. In looking at these guys in the monster manual, it's no wonder people think that 4th edition had the penis tip in the mouth at all time. Look at these numbers, man. AC 27 for a reflex. They got 25, 27, 28. What is this mumbo jumbo, man? Where do these numbers come from? You're rolling like a 20 side. I got to learn how to play 4th edition, man. There's a paragraph on infiltrator tactics and a mention of how they are usually found in the Underdark. So now these guys are starting to crawl out into the surface in 4th edition. Mind Flayer lore section is pretty cool with a dungeoneering check. There's 4 different levels of information that you can glean. This was sort of like a neat little blurb they put in there. This is actually cool if every nerd, didn't have and read the monster manual from front to back, like the frickin' cheaters most players are. And then there's a section on encounter groups, and that's it. 2 pages on Mind Flayers of mostly giant R. What? What is wrong with my English? And that's it, man. 2 pages on Mind Flayers. It looks like D&D skipped the Mind Flayers in 4th edition like the players skipped 4th edition in real life.
Oh, shots fired.
Very unfortunate, as I'm looking to get into 4th edition, and I feel the system and... Very unfortunate, as I'm looking to get into 4th edition and feel the system's nuggets. So that leaves us with my favorite, year 2014 and 5th edition. What do we got here? We got 5th edition, man. The best edition, suck it. I'm starting there. That's where I'm starting this Mind Flayer off, man. 5E is my absolute favorite. We start with a beautiful page and a half of artwork of the Underdark. So it's sort of like one half of one side of the page has this cool picture, set the tone, the darkness, the scariness, the loneliness, the dread. That's why these guys are like villainous badasses. We start off strong with some solid information about the history of these villainous bastards, these tyrant slavers and interdimensional voyagers. These guys controlled empires that spanned many worlds. And then something brought them low, and here they reside in the Underdark and the material plane. We got psionic commanders information, hive mind colonies info, hunger of the minds info that talks about how bonerific eating brains is, and Qualith, which is like Braille, It's a language that these guys can read with their tentacles. That's sort of the first iteration of that coming in, so that's pretty sweet. Your standard 5e monster template, very simple. Tentacles, extract brain, and mind blast on a 5 to 6 recharge, easy as pie. Ending the segment with the Mind Flayer's Arcanists, which is the arcane casting Mind Flayer. So yeah, 3rd edition for the win, I think, overall. Some serious details about the Flayers and how they live. I really like that. There's a lot of information was in 3rd edition. It just kind of has spanned since then. But how cool is this guy? It's like getting hit with a billy club and waking up in Mexico without your liver, except you don't wake up and you still have your liver. So that's kind of like a little shitty reference there. But that wraps up this section, man. What do you think, Uncle Jay? Give me your final thoughts. How are you using Mind Flayers in your next adventure?
What's funny too is what I would like to do is sort of like how I talked about doing age-wise guys. I still want to do it a little bit differently. What I'm thinking about doing is like incorporating like vampires and werewolves and some sort of like weird, sort of like that urban arcana. I'm essentially wanting to do like maybe wise guys, urban arcana in age. And so what I'm thinking is maybe this mob boss is going to be an illithid, or a thin man or something to that effect.
Oh yeah, hell yeah, thin man.
Because if you think about it, I mean, why wouldn't these in D20 Modern, these guys were always portrayed as like some sort of executive, some sort of like controller type villain, a mastermind type villain. So I would almost think it's a pretty good transition to take one of these guys and make it like a mob boss, and I think that would be kind of cool. And maybe they're going to work. My players are going to work for this mysterious iguana. Maybe that's exactly who it is. The iguana is actually maybe an illithid or a thin man.
Yeah, so he's like an alien. Even if you made him like an alien boss or something like that, that would be cool. But it turns out he's just like a Mind Flayer dude. Yep. That's like a little Cthulhu action going on there. Very nice, man. Very nice. I am definitely going to throw some of these flares at my players. But yeah, I'm going to mess them up in such a stuntastic array of death and destruction, they won't even know what hit them. I got so many things planned for my players. It's
good. It's always good to have options. Mm-hmm. It's not ADD it's just having a lot of options.
Is that what it is? Okay. All right. I take back all the ADD comments I said about you too then, by the way.
Hey, buddy, I just too many options, man. I just don't need to be exposed to them. That's all. Because I'll sit there and chase them down.
Right. Nice. All right. So that's going to put a pin in Creature Feature. Let's get over to this new topic that I got going on here called Community Questions. Right, welcome to the community questions. So this is just going to be a simple little segment. I'm going to ask you how you would resolve these questions, and let's start off with this one here. Who keeps the character sheets, Uncle Jay, in your game? Between the sessions, what do you do with the character sheets?
What I end up doing, I always keep a copy of character sheets saved. Like I always have the fillable ones, and so I always keep a copy of everybody's character sheet in Google Drive, print them up, and I hand them out. And the players use them. They end up drawing on them and stuff and make a note. I'll grab them back up if they haven't drawn all over them at the end of the day. And then I take them. And, if they've advanced and they tell me what kind of advances they want. But I generally manage them because, I don't know, it's just easier for me to do that. Because I don't expect somebody to sit there and hold on to the character sheets. Now, I do have stuff posted. And I do have them easily available in case anybody has any questions. Hopefully, that doesn't make me sound like a control freak. I just think it's easier for me to take care of.
Very well played, sir. I do the same thing. And here's the reason why. If I'm running the game, I'm keeping the character sheets. So that way, when I show up, I know everybody has their character. I usually have a little folder, like a little binder, a little plastic kind of a little slip thing that I put the character sheets in, and I keep them with me. That way I know my cheating ass bastard players aren't jacking the numbers. And so when I go home, what I'll do is I'll scratch off that +3 and that 17 strength on the old D&D there. I'll knock that down to a 15, give them a +1 modifier in their bonus. They deserve it because they're kind of just douchey. That's how I like to roll. But yeah, generally I keep the character sheets because if you scatter a single character sheet between 6 people, guaranteed they're going to lose it. Whereas I keep all my shit nice and tight. And yeah, that's what I do too. Good answer, Uncle Jay. I think I give you a point for that. See, you got a ding. Man. You got a ding there. I don't know if that came through.
Yeah, read this next one off to me. That's okay. A good one.
Here we go. I'm looking for a modern RPG recommendation. So in the near future, I'll be running a new game for my group, and I want us to take a break from Pathfinder and fantasy in general. as we've been playing it for years now. I had the idea of a campaign where the players are all members of a government agency and they have to investigate specific issues. The hook is the issues stem from pop culture shows and movies. For example, Southern California is full of vampires. The party may run into Sam and Dean Winchester if they're wandering around the Midwest, and New York City is full of ghosts and those who may try and bust them. Was that supposed to be like Ghostbusters? I get it. So, looking for a modern RPG recommendation, and that's what he's shooting for. What do you got?
All right. I pulled up this question too because what's interesting to me is my man says, I'm looking for an easy to learn / master system that is simple yet adaptive. I want the action aspects to be over the top like insane Bollywood action movies, and I need a system that can support that. Guess what I'm going to recommend to this guy right here? Savage Worlds.
Yeah, hold on a second. Let's do that again. Let me guess. Savage Worlds?
Savage Worlds, and I'm going to recommend one particular setting in mind. And you know what? I think you're going to think. I think we're thinking in the same line of thinking here. There, Susie Lou.
Is this going to be the Raz 20 setting?
Oh no, this is going to be ETU.
Oh,
that's exactly what I would recommend for this person. Is like they want to take a break from Pathfinder, and they, he's got an idea to, campaigns are all members of a government agency, and they all, since to investigate specific issues. Actually, he stole my idea. Because that's what I'm doing right now, but he wants to, he wants to do monster hunting or whatever. But yeah, what I would do is I would throw in Savage Worlds, and actually you can do exactly what he's doing with core right out of the gate. But if you wanted to, I would grab elements from, especially if it's going to be normie people. Sam and Dean Winchester, they're a little bit skilled, but they're just normal guys. They're not superheroes or they're not superpowered or anything like that. They're just skilled humans. So I would take the new bestiary from ETU and I would run with that.
Nice. They're Savage Worlds for sure, because, over the top Bollywood action movie, insane style stuff that you could do. Mm-hmm. As far as which one of the settings I would go with, man, that's a tough one. You want to pick a modern day one, so maybe Tropicana, maybe something like that. I don't think Tropicana has the flavor of being like a government agency. But maybe instead of a government agency, they could be an inspection agency. What do you call those? A detective, not inspection. Jeez.
Right.
All of a sudden, they're coming out to check your plumbing and make sure that your toilet flushes right. No. Question number 3. Help with a player. The fucking dogs shut the hell up, man. What time is it? 8:40? I think maybe my Brazilian kid's home. I'm not 100% sure, but I bet there's going to be a bunch of noise going on here. So let's try this again when the dog stops barking.
Let me read this question to you, Gary. I want to get your response from it.
Okay.
All right. So I have a friend who's a first-time player in a campaign that I'm running. There are 3 other players who all played before. The things he does is attacking and killing NPCs unprovoked, doing random things because it's quote unquote fun. He speaks over the other players to get attention, is constantly acting out of character. Worst of all is how he's always late for sessions. Worst was, when he was 3 hours late and he complained when we started without him. It goes on to saying that, he said he wanted to go play, another game that mattered. And this was, this wasn't imaginary and everything like that too. The GM has yet to confront him, and he's saying how to deal with him. How do you deal with this cat?
All right. So the one thing that stuck out to me is where this guy said doing random things because it's fun. That's the point at which he does something funny. You lean over and you just him right in the with your monster manual. And man, that was so
right.
There's a reason that they make these books, these players' handbooks, your DM's guide, and your monster manual so thick. So I would make sure that I had them nicely stacked up in a bundle on the side of the table, maybe put them in a plastic bag so I could get a good swing on them. And I would crack this right in the make him bit, right? When he's down on the ground, I'd probably my D20s, if you know what I mean. My D20s are my neuters in my ball bag there. And that's going to be about the size of it. Listen, this kid is a friend of his. Doesn't sound like much of a friend to me, to be honest. This guy sounds like a douche.
No, and that's the thing too. If some guys just if he's not respecting what's going on, because this isn't like anybody can put in a video game, and that's fine if you want to do that. However, though, I think as a player that you kind of have to, show a little respect for the GM who's taken a lot of time out of his week and his or her week to create this story and trying to make sure that it's engaging and that you have a good time. But if somebody's just going to go ahead and just disrespect and not really sort of respect anybody else at the table, you that dude, man. You him with the quickness and don't put up with that. In fact, as a GM, I almost if you don't nip stuff like that in the bud, I almost think that you're kind of weak too. If you let people roll all over you, it's not going to end. You let that snowball start rolling, and this is where you have, and then you have a guy who thinks that everything revolves around him. Which it's all collaborative. Everybody takes a turn, and this guy can appreciate that. You bounce him, and that's as simple as that. There's no talking to him. There's no discussion with it. He doesn't respect you, so don't have him at your table.
You know what Oprah Winfrey said? She said that you teach people how to. No, wait a second.
Yeah, you teach people how to treat you.
There you go. Thanks, pal. You watch Oprah too. I didn't know you watched Oprah.
Well, yeah. Well, I got my soft. I got my soft side.
Yeah, I like to. Oprah's my girl, man. I like a big booty lady.
She's a special lady.
She's a special lady. Oh man, here we go. Question: There's no such thing as encounter balance is a cop-out, and I'm sick of it. Let's see what this guy says. I'm sick of hearing it from GMs because your players rely on you to be their eyes and ears, and they make decisions based on what you tell them. If you don't know your players are walking into a deadly encounter, how the hell are they going to find out? I'm especially tired of hearing it from game designers. Listen, man, you design the game, you're selling it. You design the game, you're selling to me. If you can't at least try to include instructions on how best to run it using the tools given, are you really done designing it? What do you think? There's no such thing as encounter balance is a cop-out. Is this guy nuts or what? There's encounter balance. That is what D&D is all about. What system is this nugget talking about?
Yeah, what I think this guy's saying, he's saying that there's no. Yeah, I think he's saying that people who are saying that there's no such thing as a counterbalance is a cop-out, and he's tired of people saying that that. I guess what he's saying that there should be that encounter balance should definitely be a thing in certain games. And as far as like you got the heavy number crunching that like D&D has, where you got certain challenge ratings and and it's long. And it's like that with I remember Pathfinder is the same way too. You got a lot of math involved with like trying to estimate how much XP an encounter is and everything like that too. So there's encounter balance in that sense. However, though, when you don't have a game that's strictly based on a lot of numbers and experience points, like Savage Worlds, encounter balance is straight up a gut feeling. And I said that somebody else before. Encounter balance is a gut feeling in Savage Worlds. And yeah, I mean, there's some paradigms that you can stick with, as far as like I don't know, what is it? You can let me see. Yeah, you can. Fuck, I lost my train of thought here. I'll get it back here in a second.
Moving on to the next question.
All right, there you go.
Right? There you go. Good enough.
There you go.
Question. The next one is, do you have tips to get players together? I need ideas to have PCs meet so they are just not any more strangers at the beginning of the session.
Oh, so this guy wants to have PCs meet. Well, I guess he's tired of, people like meeting in a tavern or whatever. I almost think that it kind of depends too on the system, because here I go, I'm going to tout Savage Worlds again, but like a perfect way to get your players together or to get the party going, or is to start them, drop them in a scenario and then run an interlude, because that's going to give a chance to everybody to introduce themselves and like get a little feel for everything that's going on. That's always a good idea. But I really think too that a lot of there's tables and there's places that there's resources out there on the internet where you can like random locations, and like if you don't want to have start in a tavern or anything like that too, you can just do that. You just find some random location, and then you can just sort of like ask your players like why would you be motivated to be here, or why would you be motivated to do this and everything like that too.
What was the name of the game that we played with Matthew Jones? There was some prostitution, and there was like there's some gunfire, and there was some. Oh,
the Fiasco,
right?
Yeah.
Fiasco actually has one of the parts in Fiasco. Literally is like, how are you like related to, or how do you know the person that you're there with? I would take a look into maybe picking up Fiasco and looking at taking a glance at that section. Because that's the whole premise of it. It's like, how do you know the person to your left, or how do you know the person to your right, kind of a thing. And I thought that when I was reading the Fiasco rules and stuff like that, that was pretty neat. You might want to throw that in there. If you're not interested in meeting in a tavern, man, just make it part of your story. You guys have been an adventuring band for a long time.
Yeah, it's really not hard.
No, this was a pretty simple, straightforward one. So, what's next on the agenda? Read me. Where's the next one?
So equipment sizes. Are there any interesting ways to deal with the different sizes and equipment between races? Any ways that you've seen like penalties, limitations, modifications with crafting or cost? And my game currently uses size categories based on characters and equipment. It's a lot to take in at once, but it's functional. My group will testing it out before I publish it to my sites. And so he just goes on. He's saying that two-hand equipment. So I guess that the question is like, do you know of any interesting different ways for size and equipment between races?
Yeah, most armor is adjustable. It always has bands and straps and tie downs and zip locks, and we even invented Velcro. You know what I mean? If it's magic stuff always fit sizes to fit the person. So if you find a +1 suit of plate mail or something like that, it doesn't matter what race you are, you could strap it on and it just like auto shifts to your size. But as far as regular equipment goes, yeah, you might be a giant ass ogre trying to put on some goblin leather armor, and maybe it's just a cod piece when you finish getting it strapped on there.
Yeah, but yeah, I guess if you're that's the thing too. I would figure that your armor is made for your race. I mean, it's not like you're a dwarf trying to use an elven bow. That or vice versa. You're not an elf trying to use a dwarven axe.
So
you're going to use.
I got a question for you. So if a dwarf was to use an elven bow, elven bows are quite long and dwarves are quite short. Could he not turn the bow sideways gangsta style and just like pop a cap in somebody's ass?
He might be able to do that, but he would also probably launch himself because he's a little short fella.
Wow, really? He squeezes the trigger on that and he flies off into the distance. Yeah, yep. I thought this was pretty interesting when I read up on it. But yeah, it's not a thing that I do in game. You find this is one of those things where it's like you're starting to get a little tedious, a little overboard with the rules and stuff like that. It is what it is, man. I mean, if you want to go that route, you're sort of, I don't know. I feel like doing things like this might pull away from the overall story. If it's giants or something like that, I wouldn't let a halfling put on giant armor. But when do you ever come across like giants? And why would a halfling ever say, I want to take this leather armor with me and put it on, right?
Right.
Like, what are you going to do? Cut a hole in the giant's cod piece and stick your head out and just walk around with it that way?
Yeah, I mean, maybe I don't fully understand what he's saying, but like it's something I don't consider. The equipment, if you're a human, if you're medium-sized humanoid, to use Pathfinder parlance. Or something, but if you're just a size 0 human in Savage Worlds, you're going to use size 0 equipment. I don't know what to tell you. Why are you going to use it? Like, are you going to put on baby clothes? I guess I don't get it. I don't know. Like, I want to put on this onesie, man. I don't know.
Okay.
So I guess I don't get that. Well, here's actually a really good question that we got coming up here. Best system to run Harry Potter. Now I don't know how. I don't think we've ever discussed Harry Potter, but have you watched all the movies or familiar with Harry Potter or anything?
Yes, I've watched them all. I have kids that are that age. My daughter's read all the books, and the answer to this is don't run Harry Potter. What kind of a turd burglar are you, man? Just enjoy the movies for what they are. Read the book. Why are you going to be some kind of asshole trying to be Harry Potter playing Harry Potter? This is, come on, man. There's so much.
This is?
Right? Best system to run Harry Potter. None. Don't run it.
Just scrolling through some of the comments here. They're talking about now. All right, I'm going to be the first person to admit. All right, and I'm going to put this on. I'm saying this. Saying this on the record here. Because this is a reported podcast. I would go on record and say I think I would rather play Genesis than play Powered by the Apocalypse, man.
Oh wow, that is stiff, dude.
And no, here's the thing. I get Genesis and the GM, like I get I understand the mechanics of it, where Powered by the Apocalypse, man, blows my mind. I don't get it. It's just a little too fast and loose for me, where it's sort of like, okay, you roll one die, maybe, you got to stand on your leg and like everybody holds hands and, you sing Kumbaya. I think that's how Powered by the Apocalypse runs. I'm pretty sure that's the whole rule set right there.
People love peanut butter and jam system, PBTA. But I think because it's really good for one-shots, I was talking to Lamoureux about it, and he was basically saying that as you progress in levels, because you're trying to beat, like, you're rolling, it's a 2d6 system, right? So you roll them between whatever, 6 and 9 or whatever is a success or some, and 10, 11, 12, I don't know how it works. But this is the reason I never got into it. And that's because Lamoureux was saying that as you progress in levels, you can't run a campaign in this. Maybe you can. I never played it. I'm just making a statement here. But he's like, basically what happens is once you start progressing in levels and you get your bonuses and stuff like that, you can't fail.
Yeah, I can easily see that too, because there's only so there's only so much you can. Yeah, it's 2d6, and there's only so much that you're going to be able to. There's only going to be so much room for failure.
Yeah, that's
as far as that goes.
Turned me off of even looking into it as soon as I heard that. This is usually how you come about hearing about different systems and stuff like that. Word of mouth through your friends, somebody will be talking about a thing. That's how I got into ICRPG.
Yeah.
All right. Anyways,
that's how I got in Savage Worlds.
That's my answer. And best system to run Harry Potter. Man, the best system to run it through is a frickin' paper grinder.
Oh, nah. If you're asking my opinion, I don't know. I think there's probably more Genesis. I think there's a lot of like good Genesis conversion, and then there's a bunch of just whatever you want to run it in, man. If you want to run it in D&D, run it in D&D. If you want to run it in, it's magic heavy. I would run it in Savage Worlds because I like keeping things simple. And I think you could actually do it. I think you actually do it pretty well in Age too, because you do stunts and the magic spells are very similar to Harry Potter spells. I think there's even like a goddamn like Patronus spell or something. So. Yeah, one of those two. But maybe if you want to do powered by the peanut butter, man, you go right ahead. I don't get it.
powered by the jam. Hello, or Mary Potter. Man, the first time one of my players said that to me, I'd just pack my shit up and leave.
I'm out. Done.
Okay, last on the books, man, because we're running long here. I like to keep them down to about an hour and a half, so we'll see how this pans out. Puzzles? ? Hello, everyone. Hit a keeper wall here, and I need help coming up with in real life puzzles I can give to my players. It needs to be something on paper I can print out. Examples are using Morse code in a newspaper clipping and ripping a paper into 8 parts and have them put it back together again. That is the weakest ass freaking puzzle thing I have ever heard about. What the hell? So, puzzles. You got any good ideas on how to do puzzles? Do you do puzzles?
You know what? That's kind of a thing. That's kind of a sticky wicket, I think, as far as like puzzles go, because who are you really? I mean, that goes back to old school days. When you challenge the players and everything too. You challenged the players. The players had to go through a dungeon and they had to manage resources, and you had to worry about spells and you had to worry about this and oh my gosh, there's a crazy puzzle that we got to deal with at the dungeon. Oh, you got to think on your toes. That I think that kind of harkens back to the old school game, the old school days back when it was a meat grinder challenge and you just had to think on your toes and everything like that too. As far as things go today, I think you don't necessarily you can challenge the players, but I think as far as puzzles go, are you challenging the players or are you challenging the characters?
Bingo, bango. I agree 100%.
So that's the thing too, because there's going to be some people that are going to be at your game. They're just be like, man, I didn't sign on to play effing Quiz Bowl, dude. I didn't sign on to play friggin', God. I'm like, I didn't sign on to play, to play Sherlock Holmes, MFer. I just came here to roll some dice. So,
right.
That sort of thing. If you know your group, and they're going to dig some sort of puzzles. And in fact, if you're running a sort of game where it's all like investigative, if you're running like, Gumshoe or Call of Cthulhu, then yeah, I think that, I think that's sort of a good idea. And there's plenty of resources out there in the world that, that show you. In fact, there's a whole book on like RPG puzzles that I've seen out there out on Amazon. But like, if you're doing just like basic like Dungeons and Dragons, or if you're doing some like Savage Worlds, you're doing Fate or whatever, and you're talking about, somebody's like, okay, here's a Rubik's Cube, you got to solve that before you get the next cube. I'm like, F you, I'm done. I'm out. I'm out. I ain't got time.
Whoever wrote the book of RPG puzzles needs to be beat to death with that book. So here's the thing that I 100% agree with you on. Puzzles in game can be a cool thing, The problem is like you said, who are you trying to challenge? Are you trying to challenge the character or are you trying to challenge the player? Because anytime you present a puzzle, you're not presenting it to the character, you're presenting it to the player. And my character may have an 18 intelligence, but I sure as hell, as a player, don't have 18 intelligence. And when you start asking me some weird limerick that I need to answer, like, that ends up, the question is like time, or, that's the answer to the puzzle or some shit, I'm done, dude. This is ridiculous. I didn't sign up for this shiz, but I got the solution for you right here. Thanks to Murder Hobo Show's Fatomatic Answer 3000, this is how you roll. You want to throw a puzzle up at a player. This is what you do. Describe the puzzle in intricate details. It has weird little cables and bells and strings coming off of it. It has intricate parts and pieces that swirl and twirl and move around. There's an ominous glow of this dark purple haze that sort of floats off it and illuminates the area. And as you come in and inspect it, you're looking at all these weird sort of ancient ruins and stuff like that. And then it's just a simple matter of the guy's like, he knows it's a trap. You're like, you feel like you grab a couple of, pick up a few of the arcane words as being, some kind of ancient language or something like that. And you're just explaining it like that. Then you tell your player, he's like, I'm going to try and disarm it. Cool, man. Give me an intelligence roll. And if you succeed versus this number, just explain to me how you disarm this trap. It's that simple. You get the cool feature of explaining your puzzle to the player and so that they have an idea as to what it looks like when they're seeing it go off. This allows you to not have to worry about prepping anything. You could just make up puzzles on the go. You could tell them it's a colored cube with multifaceted different sides. Just describe a Rubik's cube, and they realize they got to sort of piece all the colors together in order to make it sort of click and pop the lock that way. So you can put these kind of puzzles in games, but just describe your puzzles to the character or to the player. And then just have the player determine what kind of a role his character is going to make. And if he wins, just let him win. Don't make them solve riddles or do any of this weird, goofy ass shit that nobody signed up for. What the hell do I look like? A freaking genius? Do you think I'm going to sit down here and start, doing some kind of weird ass scientific equations or, try and, solve the riddle of the universe kind of a thing? Fuck, never mind that shit.
Yeah, this ain't a Mensa party, dude. You're sitting around drinking beer and hanging out.
Right.
No, and that's the thing too. Like you want to throw a puzzle in the game, make it a skill challenge, man. Make it, when I'm talking about skill challenge, I'm talking about the universal. I guess that's the universal how they address a dramatic task. Because I'm from the frame point or the standpoint of Savage Worlds. You got skill challenges, man. Make that. You want to solve a puzzle? All right, roll. You got to roll whatever skill that you're using. You got to roll perception to decipher what's going on. You got to roll it. You got to make 6 successes before you hit 3 fails.
Right.
Done.
Perfect.
Done. That's how you do it.
And you can call them out too. Make me a perception check or make me an intelligence check to try and figure out how to solve the puzzle. Then okay, so you figured it out in your head. You know how to solve this puzzle. Make me a dexterity check to make sure that you're nimble enough to switch the levers at the right times without getting your shit cut off. That kind of stuff, right? And he makes certain checks and stuff like that so that you got sort of a sweet balance across the way. Then you can also invite the other players in so that maybe your thief is like, he walks up and he wants to help. So he can be the guy making the dex checks because he's got those stiff bonuses on that dex roll. You know what I mean? It's just, that's the way you fly with puzzles. And I think that's it for the questions, man. I think that is it. So we're going to hit the outro, man. Let's pull the pin on this bitch and get the hell out of here.
Let's do it.
Right. That's it for this edition of the Murder Hobo Show. We hope you enjoyed it. If you didn't, as usual, we don't give a shit. If you did, you can reach us at themurderhoboshow@gmail.com. Otherwise, you can send your hate mail to .com.
You can also get us at Twitter, Murder Hobo Show. What we talked about can also be found in show notes on murderhoboshow.podbean.com. And as always, you can find all the great nerds from Nerds International shows on MeWe as well. For example, such classics as The Brewery featuring Jamie Pearson. You know what? I went a whole episode without even mentioning Jamie Pearson's name. I didn't flip him shit this whole episode.
Wow, I think we're going to have to do it here. Let's talk about his baloney. Yeah, Give her.
I'm David Pearson. I got a job. Yeah, which I'm glad. I'm Jamie Pearson. I drink Bud Light. Man, that's all I got.
Is that it? You can't do better than that?
That's it. I'm still actually in a pretty good mood.
Yeah.
I'm still on a high from being married and everything, so I don't have that. I'm not nurturing any salty bile right now.
Nice. I'm riding a couple of endorphins from us being naked earlier in the show, so I don't really have much to say either, other than throw him a little bit shade for being such a wanker.
There you go.
Bologna sandwich eating, frickin' Genesis playing.
Bud Light drinking.
Right? Check out The Brewery featuring Jamie Pearson. They do Genesis. I think what are they doing right now? They're doing Tales from the Yawning Portal. Jamie Pearson is a fantastic game master. I loved playing ETU with that guy. In fact, everything that he's done, all the one-shots I've ever played with him in, have been top-notch, man. He is good at his craft.
I played one game with McCon on Cobb last year where he was running Genesis, and that's when I started. I finally grokked it, just being able to hang out with him and everything like that. No, we give him hell, but I mean, no, he's a fantastic GM. And if you ever get a chance to play with Pearson, it's a treat. Thanks for listening, and be sure to tune in next time. We will have another action-packed show where we talk about things we know little to nothing about and sound professional doing it. Don't forget to check out my YouTube channel, Murder Hobo Show. YouTube something or other. I don't know what the hell it is. I make videos about how to do maps and stuff like that in Tabletop Simulator. The #1 VTT. What do you think of that action, Uncle Jay? No? No, I don't have any problem with it. I thought you were going to talk some smack about my choice of virtual tabletops. No, man, you do a lot with it, man. I'm not gonna. I can't fault the artist for his choice of venue. All right, well, you can suck a dick. That's all I got to say on that one there. With that little backhanded compliment. All right, have a great gaming week. We're out of here. Say goodbye, Uncle Jay. Adios, folks. The Murder Hobo Show is not affiliated with or endorsed by any companies mentioned on this show. Any of the products mentioned on our show or appear on our website are on property and copyright of their respected owners. All items are used under fair use and educational and review purposes. All other items are the intellectual property of the Murder Hobo Show, copyright 2019. All rights reserved.